Welcome Canvas users! This is the first of several videos intended to help you become familiar with Canvas. Canvas is a cheminformatics program, and even though it has a lot of different features, it's actually very easy to get started using. Depending on your past experience, you may or may not know what every last setting in Canvas does, but that's okay. In fact, most users get acclimated to the interface very quickly, and there's a lot that you can do in Canvas without being an expert. To get started, in this first video, we'll create a Canvas project and predict properties for some compounds. In subsequent videos, we'll learn more about how to manipulate and view data in the interface and how to use that data to build models. Here's the Canvas interface as it appears when you first open the program. All the work that you do in Canvas is done within the context of what's called a project. A project is just a collection of structures and the results of certain operations, anything from complex calculations to simple sorting and filtering operations. As it stands right now, there's no project open, and we haven't imported any structures, so there's really not much to see in the interface. To get started, we need to save a project that will collect all of the results of all of our work. Under the File menu, choose New Project, or press Ctrl-N. Doing so will open a standard file dialog that allows you to save your new project. If you're resuming work that was done in a previously saved project, you can choose Open Project under the File menu, or press Ctrl-O. After you've saved a brand new project, you'll see that the Project View pane contains a listing of various types of calculations, and when we run the calculations, we can keep track of them here. You'll also see that the application's title bar has been updated to reflect the name of the project. It also says Master View. We'll see exactly what that means just as soon as we import some structures. Importing a structure file is a simple matter of heading up to the File menu and choosing Import, or pressing Ctrl-I. This will open up a file dialog that we'll use to choose the file or files that we want to import. We can choose from among several different file formats to import using the control that's labeled Files of Type. After we choose a file that we want to import, we're presented with a few simple options, like whether to add the new structures to any previously imported structures, or to entirely replace any previously imported structures. If you like, you can also import a subset of compounds from the structure file simply by providing a numerical range. One important thing that I want to highlight here is that if your structures already have properties associated with them, those properties will be imported automatically. This means that you can import descriptors from any program you like, just as long as those descriptors can be saved to a structure file. After importing the file, you can see that the interface is now populated with some structures. As you can see, the file that we imported had experimental activity data, but no other properties associated with it, so we'll use Canvas to calculate some descriptors later on. At the bottom of the interface, there's a pane called Messages View, and right now it contains a message letting us know how many compounds Canvas processed when we imported the file. The messages that appear here will let us know about the progress and completion of various operations that we'll be performing later on. In the main table, each imported structure appears in its own row. The leftmost column is a 2D representation of the structure, and if your structure has a name associated with it, you'll see that name under the structure. The area to the right is reserved for columns that contain descriptor properties. Right now, we have PIC50 values displayed in a single column. However, we haven't yet calculated any descriptor properties, which is why this area looks a bit empty. But even with just the activity data for each compound, you can get a feel for how data is presented here. If we want to hide the 2D structures from view, we can do so by choosing Hide from the Chemistry menu. When 2D structures are hidden, the Chemistry menu contains an item called Show that will show all 2D structures. One of the nice things about Canvas is that even if you've hidden the chemistry from view, hovering your mouse pointer over a compound name will still reveal its structure. While we're on the subject of what parts of the Canvas interface you can show or hide, I want to briefly mention that you can dismiss either the Messages View or Project View pane just by clicking the Close button in the upper right-hand corner. You can also toggle them on and off using the Project View and Messages View items under the Project menu. Here's what things look like with the Project and Messages views disabled. And here's what things look like after I turn the Project and Messages view back on using the Project menu, and after I've also turned 2D Structures back on using the Chemistry menu. Now that we have a feel for what the various parts of the interface are, let's take a look at the data we're working with. Again, as I mentioned before, the structure file we imported didn't have any properties aside from PIC50 values. Instead of using the Import panel to bring in descriptors from another program, in this example, we'll use Canvas to perform a property prediction. Doing so will add additional columns to our table and allow us to build models. To get started, we just head up to the Applications menu. If you're familiar with Schrödinger's Maestro interface, this probably won't surprise you. The Applications menu contains a list of all the various types of calculations we can perform. We'll choose Molecular Properties to create descriptors for all our compounds. As you can see, it's relatively straightforward to calculate these properties. By default, we'll be calculating the checked properties, molecular weight, A log P, and so on, for all the rows in our table. The Advanced button allows us to change the default settings that define exactly what constitutes an H-bond donor, an H-bond acceptor, and a rotatable bond, and it has some options for E-state calculations as well. In the top right-hand corner, we can define a custom name for this property prediction calculation, or just use the default name that's supplied here. To actually run the calculation, we press the Compute button. The job runs to completion very quickly. You can see that the Project view and the Messages view both provide information on the status of the job. One very important thing to keep in mind is this. At the completion of a job, we need to incorporate the results into the Canvas interface. The reason why this isn't done automatically is because some calculations on very large data sets can take a while to incorporate, and hence it's better to allow the user control over exactly when the results are brought into the interface. So to incorporate the results into Canvas, we right-click on the job name under the Project view and choose to incorporate. So, as you can see here, in addition to the PIC50 values, we now have a variety of other property values present in this table as well. Later on, we can use these predicted properties to sort and filter the table and to build predictive models. Okay, so having seen some of the basics of the Canvas interface, I now want to do a live walkthrough of what some of these features will look like when you use Canvas on your own. Those of you who are feeling a little bit more adventurous might want to skip this part of the video, but for the rest of us, I'll get started here by creating a Canvas project. To do so, I'll head up to the File menu and choose New Project. I'll just type the name of my project and click Create. So as you can see, the project view is populated with a variety of different things that we might do during the course of our project, and the title bar is updated to reflect the name of our project. Next, you'll notice that there are no structures in this Canvas project yet, so I'm going to go ahead and import them. Under the File menu, I'll choose Import to bring my structures in. I'll just click on ligands.mae and choose Import. Now this is a 188 structure file, so I'm going to import all structures, although it's worth noting that Canvas can actually handle millions of compounds. In this example though, we're just keeping things a little bit simple, and I'll click OK to bring those structures in. As you can see, the structures appear in this table right here, as well as this property, which is PIC50 values for all of the compounds in this table. However, we want to have some descriptors that we can work with as well, and those descriptors weren't part of that structure file, so I'm going to create them by heading up to the Applications menu and choosing Molecular Properties. There are a lot of nice defaults that are checked off here, and we're going to use the default job name as well, Descriptors1. I'll click on Compute to go ahead and calculate those descriptors. It's going to predict them using the default settings, and next to Molecular Properties in the Project View pane, you can see we've got this plus icon right here. And when we click on that, we see the job name and a status of running. That status of running is reflected down here in the Messages view, where it says that Descriptors1 has started running, and it's now finished running. And that status is reflected up here as well. I'll right-click on the job name and choose to incorporate it, which will bring those properties that we predicted back into this main Canvas table right here. And I'll just scroll across, and you can see where those descriptors are. So one last thing I want to show you here is how we can change some of the basic aspects of how the Canvas interface appears. Let's say that we want a little bit more room to look at the contents of the main table and the properties, the structures, and so on. I'll dismiss the Messages view and the Project View pane by clicking on these little X icons in the upper right-hand corner. And let's say also that we want to look at a few more rows at once, and we'll do that by removing the 2D chemistries from view. Under the Chemistry menu, I'll choose Hide, which hides 2D chemistry, although as you can see, just hovering the mouse pointer over one of the compounds in this table reveals the 2D chemistry, so that's quite a nice feature. To turn the chemistry back on again, under the Chemistry menu, I simply choose Show. And under the Project menu, I can choose Project View and Messages View. Note how that check mark shows up when it's displayed to turn them back on again. And it's really that simple.